Rose, the 24th of June, 2024. There is this game called Slay the Princess, where the player is supposed to follow the events of the game to kill the princess and save the world. The game states that if the princess does not die, it will be the end of the world. I'm downloading the game and wondering what the moral lesson of the story really is. Is it making players complicit in the murder of this fictional character, or the effects this game and other games have on the minds of its player base? It is, after all, a science. There are times when certain life considerations have to be relaxed on the side so that we can continue living. Even if they were important things or life considerations, it does feel like this gaming space is very far disconnected from the real world and what is happening in Gaza to our Muslim brothers. Would you help me make a game like Slay the Princess, but with an Islamic and religious motive? Slay the Princess is said to be about the end of the world caused by the princess. The player is made to listen to different personalities, saying different things. The narrator character is telling the same scenario from the beginning to end, putting the game's objective into his discussions, that the player has to kill the princess so that the world wouldn't end. Another character is called the hero, who is supposedly the personality which accompanies the player around. Whenever the player loses a run, they are teleported back to the beginning and a new past life experience dialogue is presented, where the player receives a personality or a new character. The game revolves around dying and coming back to life again with an additional personality. When the player is discussing the matter at hand with the narrator and their other personalities, the princess doesn't hear the discussion. Instead, it is made as though it is internal talk. Each personality represents a trait that the hero acquires by selecting different options in the game. The princess remembers killing him, though. Past life experiences can't happen in the real world. This is the game aspect of it. You continue playing until you win, so losing is essentially done through death of the player character. Could there be a way to restart from the beginning without dying? I hate how they capitalize the word him when it is used to reference to the narrator. Silence as you reach forward. They're gone once again. The mirror always makes them leave, but you need to see what's in it. Whenever it is the end of the game, the princess, or what's left of her, is dragged by hands reaching out from the long quiet. It is much like she is meant to dwell there, and that she is being taken back there over and over. She is not meant to leave the pit. Or in other words, she can't be saved. Or so the narrator says. When met the second time, she has her head cut, yet she still speaks with the hands behind her. The more the player tries to save the princess, the more limbs she loses. When trying to save her from the parallel dimension run, she becomes duplicated 3 times and then merged together, making an abomination. It is like the parallel dimensions theory causes an end of that world. The game designer had to include betrayal in the game, but at such a far level it becomes very uncalled for. If game progression is based upon choices made throughout the game, then it should also consider the immediate choices before the scene as well. The personality being demonstrated through this playthrough is a person who doesn't really mind the world ending. Therefore, if letting the princess out of the cabin would bring the end, then it shouldn't be obstructed, even by the princess being a witch. If, disregarding the fact that she is a witch, she should be able to be let out of the cabin at this point, yet she goes and backstabs the player, basing her own judgment on his prior life decisions. However, previously the game was speaking about parallel universes and that letting the princess out would end the world she is in, killing the player and restarting the loop. Much like the movie The Ark, the princess remembers certain things throughout each run, like some decisions made by the player in previous runs. However, conversely, the perspectives might not. Some perspectives do remember things from previous runs. The human player, however, remembers almost most of the run decisions. The most human thing in the game is the fact that these scenarios playing in the player's ears from discussions between the characters of the game are received by the player. The player seems absent in most of these discussions. It is not entirely the player's fault that the princess has to be slain in the game. Instead, he is merely following the storyline, how it was written by the developer. The player only really speaks when there has to be a choice made, how the player replies to the characters in the game. The decision to move the story forward is made by the player. However, when there is a scene of the player's death while the voices continue to discuss the scene, such scenes show that people have no agency nor power over their running thoughts. This, I find, is the most human thing in the game, even if it is merely free will. But what freedom does that really give the player if all the choices are pre-programmed into the game? I wonder if adding player's voice input would have made a difference. Moreover, the narrator of the game and other characters continue to scold the player over their death scene, saying some form of "I told you so." The narrator seems to be a "follow commands and obey, otherwise you lose" type of perspective. I like the use of the word perspective. To me, it is personas. I should not have played the game. The princess is called the Shifting Mound.